Hi everyone, it's Patty Behan and thank you for tuning in today. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this darling birthday card, and I'll be using the Wendy Vecchi Make Art New Chippies, her stamped stencil die set, some liquid pearls, her archival inks, and even do some embossing. So let's get started. To begin, I have here chippies from her Blossoms set. There's 12 different flowers that come in this set, and then I'm also using the wreath set, and this one has 2 laurel wreaths and 2 bows. So I picked 5 flowers from the set. You can pick whatever flowers you want, and one of these laurel wreaths. The chippies are already primed, but since they're a little off-white in color, I wanted to paint them with gesso so that the true colors of the liquid pearls will come through. So my pieces don't move around a lot, I'm going to tack them down with some glue dots before I paint them. Okay, and once that's done, I'll put some gesso onto the craft sheet here. And I'm working on the Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station, and I have her craft sheet. And then I'm using a mini ink blending tool with flat foam, and I'll just dab the gesso on top of all these pieces here. And then once that's done, we're going to let this dry and we'll come back and we'll start painting. Alright, now that these are dry, I'm ready to paint. But first, I'm going to cut this up a little bit because I'm going to use this wreath in different ways. So I'm going to cut off the top 3 leaves on this side. And then I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. And then I'm going to trim off the first pair of leaves over here, flush to the leaves. You don't need any stem. This is going to be a butterfly, and then I'll repeat the same thing on this side, and that's the other side of my butterfly. And then we're going to just paint that other piece like so, and again I'm going to attach them with glue dots to my craft sheet to make them easier to paint. Okay, the first color I'm going to use is Wendy Vecchi's Prickly Pear, and I'll put some on the craft sheet here, and then I'll use some Night Sky. I'm going to mix these colors together to make like a darker green, and I'm using a Ranger Artist brush. I believe this is a number 6 brush. And next, after I do the leaves, I'm going to use some Carnation Red, and I'll start painting the flowers. And as I'm switching colors here, I'm cleaning out my brush. Next is Sunflower. And another thing about liquid pearls, you can use this as a watercolor. I'm using it straight on, but if you want, you can add a little more water and watercolor with the liquid pearls. They have a shimmery, pearlescent look to them. This is Orange Blossom now. And you can also just squeeze them straight out of the bottle for a raised accent. And I'll just continue to paint the flowers. You can really paint them any colors that you like. There's so many different colors of liquid pearls. Once you're finished painting the flowers, I'll go ahead with the prickly pear and highlight the leaves a little bit. And then after that, I'll color in my butterfly wings, and I'm using Carnation Red and then some Ranger White Opal liquid pearls, and I'll mix those together to make a pink for the wings. And then after that, I'll use Violet to just highlight the middle of the wing a little bit. Once you're finished painting, we'll just put this aside to dry, and I'll see you at the next step. Alright, now we're ready to do some embossing. I have here the Wendy Vecchi Make Art Stamp Die Stencil set called Birthday Bash, and I'll be stamping with this sentiment. And I already have it on my acrylic block here, and I'll use Letter It Embossing ink pad in clear to ink up the stamp. Actually, before I stamp this down, I want to use our anti-static pouch and just rub it across my piece of black cardstock here. And this will help the embossing powder from fluming and sticking to places where you don't want it. And I have some Ranger white superfine detail powder. Since this is a small stamp with tiny letters, it's best to use a fine grade embossing powder. And I'll pour it over top and take the excess off. And then I'll put that excess back into the jar, and then we'll emboss it until it melts. And this is what it looks like when it's done. And we'll put that aside and go on to the next thing. Okay, so now we're ready to make our background. I have a Wendy Vecchi perfect cardstock panel trimmed to 3 3/4 by 5 inches long. And again, I'm going to take the birthday bash set, and I'll use the stencil this time. And I'm going to use the bottom portion, and we'll line it up flush with the bottom of the card here and place the magnets on here to hold it. And then, since I don't want to get ink on the card over top here, I'm going to mask off that section with some Dina Wakley media tape. And then once that's done, I'm going to use the leaf green archival ink. And then I have a mini ink blending tool with dome foam, and I'll ink up the foam and then just color in that bottom portion of the stencil. Okay, and once that's done, see how you have that nice crisp edge? Now we're going to ink the top portion and make kind of like a sky. So this time I'm masking just with a piece of paper, and I'm using sky blue ink with the blending foam just to get a subtle little background there. Alright, I think now we're ready to put it all together. Now that all the pieces are dry, we're ready to put them together. I trimmed down my sentiment like so, and then now I'm going to cut up this laurel here, and I'll start by cutting it in the center. And I'm just going to use some of these pieces, not the whole thing. So I think I'll start with this one, and I'll cut it off right here, like so. So I have a little stem at the bottom, and we'll tuck it under the sentiment like that. And then I'll just keep playing around with these pieces, and I'll make a little garden, adding the flowers on top of the stems and adding some extra leaves. There's my butterfly. And I think that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to make the middle part of my butterfly, and I just have a black twist tie, and I'm folding it in half and twisting the bottom portion. You could also use some black wire if you have some, and I'm just seeing if this is the right length, and I'm going to twist this a little more, and I'll flatten that edge there, and then I'll make the antenna and trim it off a little bit. I think that looks good. And I put some foam on the back of this sentiment, and then I'm going to glue down the rest of the pieces with glue dots, and I'll be right back. Okay, now all of our pieces are glued down, and you can see the texture and the shimmer of the liquid pearls paint, and I'm going to attach it with some double-sided tape, and I'll take off the liner paper, and this is a Wendy Vecchi top folding card, and I'll just place it onto the center, and then you'll just press it down and you're finished. You have this bright and cheerful birthday card. So if you'd like to give this project a try, we have a link to the supply list in the description box below, And if you'd like to see more crafty videos, please subscribe to our channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.